Welcome to a new episode of Real Business Roundtable. Today we have a new guest, brand new guest on a new series that we're going to call the Real Business Journey. So we're going to interview business owners to talk about their background, what inspired them, what did they do, what motivates them, what drives them. So let's welcome Matt Degatti. Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome to the show. So we want to learn. So you're tell us a little bit about like what business you're in. Just to first start off, introduce yourself, your company.
Yeah, I've owned my own business for with a business partner of mine for, I think August 17th will be our 8th year in business. Okay. A company called Renewables Worldwide. Very niche in the energy space of solar farm development. Okay. So we've been doing that, like I said, for 8 years. It's been quite a journey. Yep. No pun intended with the title of your show. But and from that, about a year and a half ago, we decided to open up another company separate from Renewables Worldwide called Sunday Energy, which is just because of our network and our business background and the success we've had, rooftop solar, both residential, commercial. And that's the foundation of
that's what I always thought it was, and what I always found intriguing about your business. It was a little bit different. Yeah. You were targeting small business owners.
Yes.
And you were working deals. And for the audience, this was really, because when someone says solar, everybody thinks of, oh yeah, you're going to try to sell me panels on my roof, right?
Yeah.
Even though you're doing that now, but originally your original stomping grounds was to target small business owners and selling them on a deal where you guys would do all the heavy lifting, finding the solar farms and connecting it to the power grid and all that stuff, where they would just commit to a certain amount of time of a contract, but they would be able to leverage solar power, which would reduce their energy costs. Right. Which I think that's mind blowing, and it's very different. So when you say solar company at face value, everybody thinks of that, and there's so many different areas and verticals and directions that people can go in. So that side of what you did originally was very, very unique to me. How did small business owners receive that? How did you have to craft your messaging? Because I know there is a long commitment.
Yeah.
How did you craft your messaging to drive the value home, to get those business owners to say, yeah, I'll sign on the dotted line? What was your approach?
So I'll take it back a little bit, actually. So it started selling for a company in this, and again, we found it by happenstance. It was just, I actually went to another solar company's interview. It was a full day process back in 2015.
Okay.
And
that's way back, yeah.
Yeah, it was way back. We're going way back now. And it was for residential solar. And it was one of these rah-rah experiences that I just wasn't really into. So I went up to the manager afterwards. I had engaged, I had asked questions, and I went up to him afterwards and I said, this isn't really my thing. I'm kind of into commercial solar. This again, 2015, rooftop solar wasn't even really a conversation that most people thought about, right? It was so new. And I said, do you know anyone in that space, that industry? And he goes, I know a guy. And he introduced me to someone. Long story short, met him at a mall, and he does what I ended up doing, which was community solar. So community solar is what you had mentioned, just literally going out, finding business owners that have a utility bill that they pay on their own. They don't need to own the building or anything. They literally just pay their own electric bill, pizza shops, liquor stores,
tons,
whatever. And maybe they don't want to pay full rate anymore. So community solar, the premise of which is a state legislated entity, originally originated in Massachusetts, by the way. Just approaching a business owner and saying, hey, you're paying full price for your electric. How long do you plan on owning your business for? Well, hopefully indefinitely.
I like that.
Yeah. And I said, well, you realize you are monopolized by the utility company, meaning whatever their rates do, rise or fall. And let's be honest, most times they rise, and I'll show you the graph. And it was a very easy conversation after that. So we could essentially give them a credit on their bill, 10, 15, 20% savings, whatever it happens to be. No money out of pocket. There's no widget, gadget, or gadget on their location. Again, we weren't putting rooftop solar on them. They have to own the building. Literally, you have a utility bill, I'm going to save you money. It's really that simple.
So so for the small business owner that might be watching, that might want to contact you, and if anybody does reach out to the show, I'll give you Matt's information. So just to confirm, you're still doing the small business.
Yeah,
okay,
most definitely.
So just to kind of understand, for the small business owner that decides, hey, let's do it. It's just business as usual. They're going to get their power normally. They don't need to change any hardware or anything. So it's like almost like a trade where you guys have a contract and say, hey, we're gonna put this amount of power into the grid from the solar farm.
Yeah.
Credit this person. Is that how it works?
Yeah, essentially. So when you have a solar farm, and for those that maybe don't know what a solar farm is, I'll bring it full circle for you. If you drive down any highway in Massachusetts, New Hampshire, you see solar panels out in the field, that's a solar farm.
Okay,
it's
so
really, it's really
sometimes they're like on the on-ramp or
Yeah,
off-ramp, you
exactly.
see that. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
So then what happens is I'm in the paperwork business. I move paper. I don't do anything physical. I sit behind a desk and move paper. So from a business owner's perspective, their paper, their process is their utility bill. That utility bill gets virtually connected to the solar farm. And when I say virtually, we take their account number, their meter number. That gets to the Department of Energy Resources through the developer, through their contract that they're going to sign, or they're going to sign with the developer. And contractor agreement's always a scary thing, but it's just solidifying your space or your spot, because there's only so much solar farm allocation we can put. If you have I won't get into specifics, but if you can get into if a farm is the size of this table, and we can allocate 100 spaces on this, or you think of a 5,000 space puzzle, there's only 5,000 pieces.
Yeah.
Once the puzzle's full, or once the solar farm is full with customers, it's full. You can't force people on there. So it's first come, first serve, which is the other benefit of it. And then they just realize savings on the utility bill for as long as they're in the agreement.
How do you go about finding the farms that are about to get set up, or they need more users?
I mean, initially we started grit and grind. My business partner, Chris, and I, back in the day, 2015, 16, and then 2017, when we opened up Renewables Worldwide, it was essentially picking up the phone, just like, you doing your business, having conversations. And then we've just built a network across the country of developers. And now we're in our little niche space. We're a household name with developers in terms of, hey, these guys can go out and find us customers. And, our role is very simple. I don't even consider what I do sales. It's consultative, right? Yeah. If you're a business owner and you have a need of saving money, which I would assume if you're a business owner, I don't care what business you're in or industry you're in, our goal as business owners, especially nowadays, if we can save a dollar somewhere, we probably should think about it, and especially if it's not affecting us of spending money, which is even, much more of a benefit of what we do.
What I always liked about your approach is it was very lean and mean, bootstrap in the beginning. I noticed that you were very cautious of overhead and stuff like that, but you still had the drive to grow, which is definitely a good thing in business, to be able to kind of literally not rely on anything else, just networking, grinding, calling, talking to people, having conversations. Yeah. And for people that are watching, if you're an aspiring business owner or you have a small business, there's nothing wrong with putting in the sweat equity. No. Pick up the phone, have conversations. There's nothing wrong with that. Don't be afraid of it. And if you're afraid of it, try to practice with friends and family or whatever, and just try to get comfortable on the phone or comfortable face-to-face talking to people, because sometimes people are shy to do that, or they'll hire someone else to do it, but now they got to pay that person $50,000 a year to go do the stuff that they could do to bootstrap it.
Yeah.
Now let's talk a little bit about, so that was the business solar solution. Let's talk about the residential. What's going on with that?
Again, so as a result of our success, our network, Chris and I, we decided, Chris is my business partner, we decided about a year and a half ago, most people, to your point, original point, think we were a rooftop solar company because we were solar.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I would actually even interview people for Renewables Worldwide, and they would be like, what's community solar? I don't even know what that is in the solar industry. So people actually in the solar industry, 9 times out of 10 don't even know what I do. So wow. in the Renewables Worldwide space. So because of that, we would get friends and family be like, hey, can you put solar on my roof? I'm like, I don't do that. This was, back in the day. And I would refer to friends of mine or network colleagues of mine who were in rooftop solar. And after so many years of just handing over referrals and maybe getting a gift certificate to a restaurant, thank you, I started running the numbers about a year and a half ago of rooftop solar in terms of, from a business perspective, does it make sense, And I was astonished. I was like, it's a massive benefit to any homeowner or a business owner that owns a building, and it's a great benefit from a business model perspective. So because of that, I'm the type of guy that just moves. I move quickly, and I don't think about things to the point of being complacent. I there's an old saying, ignorance on fire is better than knowledge on ice.
Okay.
Meaning, don't be complacent, just act, take action.
Take action.
Action solves so many problems in whether it's your personal life, your business life. It's been my go-to for as long as I can remember.
I always say Nike has the best tagline because Nike's tagline is just do it.
Yeah, there you go.
And like I'm a big believer in that. Like just go, just do it. Take this step.
Yeah.
Take action. Don't sit there and ponder because that pondering crap, that chin. Yeah.
Most sales guys and gals that I work with, that's their biggest nemesis. They think too much.
Yeah.
They overthink. I mean, that's really the issue there.
Years ago, I used to have like salespeople that worked for me, and before they called someone, they would spend a tremendous amount of time on the potential client's website. And I'm like, dude, just quickly Google what they do, see if they show up, glance at the website, look at the address, but it's got to move. Like it was a problem where people would spend 20, 30 minutes on a website. And I'm like, are you doing 30 minutes between every call? Like, what are you doing? Just glance.
Yeah.
Like literally before a meeting, I glance at a couple key things. I pull up socials, I pull up their Google local, and I pull up their website, and I'll Google a couple things that they do to see what comes up. That's it. It's right to the point. But like that, that time management and taking action and don't dilly-dally. That's a salesperson or business person's worst nightmare is that drag. You don't want to have that drag in your business.
Yeah, simple introduction and value proposition. I do a lot of cold calling as well. That's to your point. I don't sit around and spend an hour researching a company. I have an introduction, very simple one. Hey, this is Matt. Wonder if you can help me out for a second. That's my introduction to every single call I make. I don't
awesome.
I don't say, hey, do you have a minute or this? Literally, that's all I say.
Can you help me out for a second? So I was really good at biz dev and phone work. My trick was, I did like a breath. I would go, maybe you could help me out.
Yeah.
So immediately the person's thinking like, okay, I got someone that's trying to do something.
Yeah.
And automatically us as humans, most of us, we like to help others, right? And if you say, maybe you could help me out. My thing was, if I said, maybe you could help me out, they're automatically thinking like, oh, this guy's been trying to get through. Maybe I can do something to help him out. Oh. And it's just, it goes deep into our human innate drive to help others.
Well, you added the other element there, which is tonality.
Oh yeah, your tone. Your tone's
everything.
huge. The way you say it, the way you convey is going to hit on certain circuits in the brain and create an outcome. Hopefully it's an outcome that you're trying to get. You're trying to get through to a decision maker.
Most definitely.
I wanted to talk to you a little bit about, since you've started your business now, what you said is, how many salespeople do you have now?
Over 70.
70.
Yeah.
Wow.
Just opening up our second office. Oh, thank you.
That's amazing. Yeah. See, I love that stuff because I remember when Matt was just starting out, right? And to have 70 sales reps, that's amazing. So I wanted to, kind of highlight kind of your accomplishments to motivate some of the viewers. So you got 70 salespeople. I'm assuming they're all performing okay?
Yeah, I mean, it's the typical 80-20
sales.
Yeah. But I will say this. I think there's companies and industries out there, and I've managed salespeople in my old life in recruiting. That's what I used to do before I became a business owner. And, I remember having a VP of sales. All he cared about was how many calls I made in a day. He didn't care about the content. None of this tonality thing. He didn't care about my pitch, whatever you want to call it. He didn't care about my conversations. He only cared about how many calls.
The dials.
I say that because that's such the wrong approach to take with folks. Like salespeople nowadays, especially, that it's overwhelming, it's overloading. They need nurturing. They need training. Mm-hmm. They need consultation. And so we spend a lot of our days and weeks and months and really formulating the best sales force that we can possibly have. And I almost feel like even sales is taboo because, rooftop solar in general, it's not a sales, it's a benefit to a homeowner. There's actual value there.
Absolutely. You're providing a service and you're providing value, and you're like, what homeowner doesn't want to save some money on their bill? Yeah. Like everybody wants that. So You're providing something that could impact their quality of life. Absolutely. A little bit, even if it's extra whatever that money could go towards tuition or something for the
payments,
family. Exactly.
More groceries. I mean, anything. Yeah. It's again, it goes back to this dollar cost averaging your life. If you're spending X amount of dollars here, and it's something that obviously electricity is a value to you, right? You need to have your lights on. But if you can bring down that cost a little bit, and then reallocate some funds somewhere else that maybe are more benefit to you. Again, to your point, maybe you're putting away for your child's college, maybe you're adding it to your car payment. You love this car, but it's just slightly maybe over your budget, but now we're reallocating funds because you're saving money here to make it up over there. So that's really, and that's why I say what we do is very consultative. It's more than just about, hey, we can put solar on your roof. It's understanding it. And I mean, we go a little more in depth. We can actually replace roofs for free because we have a partnership with a roofing company. So there's a ton of value in what we're looking to do. We're definitely trying to change the game in terms of the aspect of rooftop solar.
That's like us. When I'm meeting with a small business owner, medium-sized business owner, an executive who's a decision maker, and I say like a CMO or whatever, is I always try to drive the value home. Like, okay, you guys are struggling with your Facebook ads and you have this for a client acquisition cost. And when I'm trying to explain the value that we can provide is ultimately saving money on what it costs somebody to bring on a client and seeing those metrics, those KPIs improve over time. And I always have to get into like a comparison. Like typically a small business, what they'll do is they'll hire like 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 internal people that handle like advertising, creative and stuff like that. And I'll assume like roughly what are they spending for a salary for all of those people. And I say, listen, I'm not in the business of getting anybody laid off or fired. I don't want that to happen. But when we compare sometimes the approach of building an internal team, it is astronomical when compared to just hiring an agency that already has the team. They already have the proven process. So my pitch is always driving the savings, the increased revenue, and our track record. Like I was like, hey, I work with this small business owner. I work with this small business owner. You can talk to them and they'll get firsthand testimonial like, hey, he 3X'd, he 4X'd, he 5X'd my sales. Or, hey, I got bought out because my sales went to the moon. So I think that's super important to present the value, present the savings, like you say, because that hits home with people.
Sure.
Money talks. So when you tell people like, hey, I can save you X on your power bill, that's the best direction versus going, hey, you want solar? Push the value. No matter what your offering is, as a small business owner, push the value. The value is king. And then when somebody kind of weighs and balances, okay, is this a long commitment? Is this something money I got to put up or whatever it is as long as when they compare it, it provides a little bit more on the other side of the scale.
Absolutely. Most
of the time they're going to make the move. I just want to rewind a little bit, if you don't mind.
Sure.
And I want to talk about, because like when I was sometimes on here, I talk about like when I was a kid, I would, see people like maybe like successful people in my mind, like as a kid, that guy drives a Mercedes, or that guy drives a Ferrari or NSX. Specifically, the story that this guy pulled up an NSX. Remember?
Yeah.
NSX. So he just pulls up, and I remember my first gym membership. I was 19 years old, and I walked up to the gym, and there was a guy there in a brand new red NSX, and I was like, dude, holy crap. I'm like, what do you do? And then this is where, and there was entrepreneur sparks of inspiration before.
Sure.
But I remember he looked at me from his window, and he's like, dude, if you want stuff like this, you got to work for yourself.
Yep.
He goes flat. I was like, well, what do you do? He's like, I own a fiber optics company. I tell this story so much, I'm wondering if people who watch know who this guy is. But he inspired me. And I was like, okay, business owner. And then I decided I'm going to go to school for business. That was the thing that shifted. Yeah. I had some friends that were telling me, yeah, go to school for business. Go to school for business. And I wanted a good life. I wanted financial freedom. But I knew it was going to require work. And I knew it wasn't going to be an easy ride. And that's one of the things that pushed me, was that guy. Can you give us, and you can talk about whatever you want, and you don't have to talk about anything you don't want, but just fill us in, like what inspired you? Like what age were you when you were like, I want to work for myself?
I'm going to take it way back.
Okay.
This is more of a inspirational, but not in the way that you think. I'm going to go back to second grade.
Whoa.
I remember sitting in the resource room, as they called it, my mom and my teacher having a parent conference with me. I'm sitting off to the side, writing or playing or doing whatever. And I remember listening to the conversation.
Yeah.
And my mom was brought in because I wasn't at the reading level that they anticipated me to be at in second grade. And I remember my teacher saying, "That's a little slow." Yeah. And those words, even in second grade, had so much influence and inspiration at the same time. Even though it was such a negative comment and I overheard the negative comment, it inspired me even at 8, I think it was 8 or 9 years old, right, second grade, to the point of wanting to be the best version of myself. And it was amazing that even at that age, something like that affected me. And so I'm an only child, and I think maybe that's where a lot of this spawns from. I've always been of that entrepreneurial, individualist mindset.
Yeah.
So, from there, and by the way, I was always a BC student, but things that I liked and enjoyed, I excelled at. I really enjoy meteorology and science, excelled, always A's, and philosophy, always A's in college. But if you put me, English and things like, not my favorite subject to learn, from a subject matter perspective. So I learned that about myself, that instead of being forced to do things that I don't love and aren't passionate about, and then, just follow this complacent process of life, working the 9 to 5, for me, working a 9 to 5 job, doing these things, I want a different life. And that was really the first instance in my life that it inspired me to be, and again, I wasn't thinking about my career at that point. I was just thinking about, wow, that's kind of offending in an 8-year-old mind. Obviously I didn't use those words, but I'm offended by that. And I wanted to be better than what someone thought of me, I guess is the moral of that story. And I think fast forwarding, the entrepreneurship in me started with a paper route. That was my first thing. I had a paper out. I don't know if you remember the Lawrence Eagle Tribune. Yeah. So I was a paper boy, and I started off. I took over my friend's paper route when he would go on vacation. It's like, I kind of like this, and I would get tips, and it was all about adding value to the customers. I started out with just about 25 papers and grew it to about 100, 150 every single door. And those days you would go door to door. That was kind of my first door-to-door experience, if you will. I would package all the papers in plastic so they wouldn't get wet or ruined by the sun or anything like that. And I networked with people. I became friends with some of my neighbors that I was introducing, and I realized the better service, the more value I provided, even just delivering the paper, because you can just throw the paper on the lawn and be done. Mm-hmm. But I went a little, not even thinking about it, by the way. It wasn't like a conscious thought, like, I'm going to provide extra value to these people. It wasn't about that. I just inherently did it. I think, again, going back to that second grade experience, I want the best version of myself. So that experience, I started making tips. I was like, I like this. I like making money for myself. And then fast forward a few years later, I was 15 years old. My next door neighbor was moving, and he came over with a box of baseball cards. Mm-hmm. And he said, "Do you want to buy these?" And I was a pretty big baseball fanatic back in the day, still kind of.
Same, yeah. And
I was like, "Yeah, I guess. What do you want for them?" And I still had my paper out at that time. He's like, "I don't know, $60." I bought him for $60, and there was a lot of them. Then I went to the comic book store. I bought a baseball card book that told you at that time the value. Yeah, the value of the cards. There was over $1,000 worth of cards.
Hell yeah.
And that was my first instance of like, wow, something of value here. So I went to my dad at the time. Not at the time, still my dad. I went to my dad and I was like, I just bought these cards for $60 and there's over $1,000 worth of cards. So I did all the math. I showed him. I wrote it all down. From there, he got so inspired. We ended up opening a sports memorabilia store in Methuen.
Wow.
That we owned for 3 years that I ran. And so my role for that, after school, on the weekends, all the summers, I would spend there buying and selling baseball cards. And then we ended up getting vending machines, and we had cards in there that'd always be like one card of value out of the 50. My job was to stack all the cards. So That's really where my entrepreneurship spirit really came from. Those two instances in my life that were just excited.
Yeah. Who was your favorite baseball player growing up?
It's kind of an old school. I was kind of the old school Mickey Mantles. I didn't experience
them. No, of course.
Yeah.
Jackie Robinson.
Yeah, those guys. But those are my favorite cards, probably.
I was. I was
Roger Clemens and those.
Yeah. So I was obsessed with baseball, like to the point it was insane. I was absolutely obsessed with it. But I remember like what got me into baseball cards. I remember my mom stopped at like a corner store or whatever just to grab some stuff, and I was sitting in the car and she put a pack of baseball. It was, I'll never forget, it was a pack of 1986 Topps.
Oh yeah.
1986 Topps, and she put it on there. I opened it up and I was chewing the gum and I'm going through the cards, and there was like Bill Buckner and all these players, and I from that day that my mom got me those cards, I was like just into it, and then I got into it. But my problem, even though I'm an entrepreneur, is I would get too emotionally attached to the cards, and I would trade, but I wouldn't sell them.
There's a secret to success right there. To not become emotionally attached to business.
Yes. I would be so like the 1986 Topps traded Jose Canseco. I'm like, I am never selling this.
Mark McGuire's those.
The Mark McGuire USA card, and I did not want to sell them. But as I got a little bit older, I'm like, well, I could get doubles or triples, sit on it, then flip it. And that's when I started to mature.
Sure.
And I'm like, okay, I'll have 3 of these cards, and then I could trade up or get more cards back that I could pot with.
Yeah.
Because there were certain baseball cards that I was like, no effing way. Yeah. Like there was a sentimental card from my mom had a Carl Yastrzemski, and it was like 1970 or something like that. And it was very sentimental. I was like, that's my mom's baseball card.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm never gonna sell that. I think I still have it. But
my dad and I to this day have a pretty decent collection. He has it. He lives out in Santa Fe, New Mexico. But we amassed quite a collection together. So
wow.
Yeah,
so he have any like serious pieces, like mantles?
Oh yeah, he's got some mantles and some really nice stuff. I mean, in complete sets of things. I mean, we got pretty deep into it. We would buy complete sets of entire years and things of that nature.
What's so crazy is somebody I know. I don't want to shame anybody on the show. But if you're watching, you'll probably know. So I had somebody go, yeah, I got this whole box of baseball cards that a relative of someone has. Can you go through them? And I'm thinking, all right, let me go through them. Oh yeah, there's some crazy stuff in there. And literally he sends me a text message. Now you probably are familiar with these. The old time cards that were repopped.
Yes.
Bless you. And he sends me a screenshot or a picture of a Babe Ruth. Mm. And I'm like,
the renditions, yeah.
I'm like,
there's no value.
I'm like, what year does it say on the back? And he's like, bro, 1991. I was like, do you understand when Babe Ruth played? And he goes, no, dude, this is an OG card. I'm like, how do you think that this is an original? I was like, dude, like when they remade the Honus Wagner. Dude, those are repops.
Yeah.
When it's glossy and it looks brand new and it smells like a magazine, like, dude, it's not an authentic original.
That's right. In baseball cards, that's really what spawned my entrepreneurial spirit. Yeah. No doubt.
Yeah, because it had a monetary value. Yeah. And I remember like looking
it was like the crypto of our day.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It was we used to look at the cards and then we'd go into Beckett to see how much it's worth. And I remember watching cards fluctuate from $4 to $12. And as a kid, I'm like, oh my God, that's a lot of money. Yeah. And then when a card hit $50, I'm like, this is gold.
Then you'd have to factor in condition and things like that.
Yeah, you're looking at the corners, any dog ears, stuff like that. But yeah, so that I can relate to that, the baseball card thing. So aside from that stuff, and by the way, I dealt with the same thing. I've never been diagnosed, but I have a little bit of an attention thing.
Yeah.
People would call it ADD. I don't know, but I've always been a scatterbrain.
Sure.
But all that means is that my brain's working super fast.
Yeah.
And typically people who are business owners are that type where they have that super fast brain. I guess, there are some famous business people that have the same thing. Our brains go so fast that people will label it as, oh, it's a learning disability. Actually, it's a gift to have the ability to comprehend stuff that fast. Like I'm gifted at strategy. Mm. I swear to God, I never knew how to play chess. Never did. But I knew I was gifted at strategy. I learned literally the same night that I learned chess, I kept beating the person that showed me.
No kidding.
And they just look at me and they were like, "You pulling my leg?" And I go, "No, I'm just good at strategy. I can predict 4 moves ahead and pop, 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 pop." And that is because my brain processes so damn fast.
Yeah.
It's like, but the speed of it, right? Because I can't focus sometimes, it's looked at as, oh, and I remember, I think second grade, they put me in like a special class. And I think my mom got me pulled out of that. She was like, he's too effing smart for that.
Something in common there. Look at that.
Yeah.
That was the time to do it, right?
Yeah. So when you said the story, I have, and whenever I think of that, I was in the class and like the special class, and I remember the teacher, it was a very small room, and I remember she had a can of beets. I'll never forget this. So she opened up a can of beets, like beetroot, and she got a little plastic spork from the cafeteria, and she was spoon feeding us beets. And this was back in the 80s, and I'm like, in my mind, I go, why is she spoon feeding us beets like we're babies? It was insane. I didn't know what was going on, and I don't know.
Was it mush beets or like a whole beet?
It was like little circles of beetroot. And she goes, isn't that sweet? Isn't that good? And she was an older teacher. She was probably at least maybe 68, 70, older, white hair. But she was like, I'm like, why is she spoon feeding us like we're babies? It was second grade, but I'm like, what the heck's going on in this room? So long story short, I ended up moving out of that, and I kind of pushed myself in the regular class. But now as an adult, I do know, because I was a BC student, same thing.
Yeah.
But as an adult now, and there's more science and more research, that people who have that typically are gifted in other things that they apply themselves. So it's actually technically a blessing. There's some people that are super book smart, straight A students that they have some challenges. Yeah. They some of the things that require that speed thinking.
Most definitely.
They have challenges with. So there's two sides of the coin.
Most definitely.
In the regular school system, kind of forced to we got to fit this mold, and sometimes those square pegs that don't fit in the round hole, there's a purpose for them and there's a reason for them. So for people that are watching that, someone told you that you have a learning disability, actually, that's their opinion.
That's my opinion!
And you may be, or you are, blessed in other areas that you will excel in more than that person who maybe is categorized as not having it. So
I have a great example of that. Just in my home, I have twin daughters. They're fraternal twins.
Yeah.
One is a welder in the union. She's a foreman. The other one's a doctor of physical therapy.
Wow.
The doctor of physical therapy, extremely book smart, academic, obviously, went through a 7-year doctorate program, well, total, undergrad to graduate. Full-time, did school for 7 years. Flourished at it. My other daughter, and they both went to vocational school. So for trade, right? My daughter that's a doctor of physical therapy was in biotech, and my daughter that is now the welder went for welding.
Yeah.
And my daughter that was, in the welding, similar to me, had teachers tell us, she's remedial reading, and because of my experiences, I caught on very quickly to the teachers, and I was like, we need positive affirmation here.
Yeah.
I'm not, we're not going down the road that I went down and was told. And I would just encourage my daughter, like, darling, school and learned academia is not the most important thing that's going to be in your life. You'll realize this one day.
Oh yeah.
You're not an academic. It's okay. But what you are is masterful and have an adroitness of a doer, right? Mechanically inclined, very mechanically intelligent. So she went through the whole, the 4-year program in high school. Within 6 months from graduating high school, went into the union for welding, pipe fitting welding, and put up with a lot of BS. Obviously being a male-dominated industry.
Oh, yeah.
And today she is a foreman in the union, making a crap load of money for what she's doing.
Wow.
And it's just a perfect example that nowadays like school is not the only answer.
Yes.
Learning a trade, learning a skill, and even applying, even in school, the general degrees, in my opinion, I wouldn't go down that route.
Yeah.
But learn something that you're passionate about as well. Follow what excites you. If my daughter, the welder, was in an academic and just forced that on herself, she would not be happy in life. She was in like a traditional office job. It's not her. It doesn't fit within her realm of who she is as a human.
Exactly.
So it's about finding yourself.
Yeah. So we kind of live in a society that pushes. Maybe not so much now, but traditionally.
It's transitioning, but,
There's so much push on book smart.
Oh, yeah.
Book smart. And then the people that are, I gotta be really careful because I don't want to offend people that I respect and consider friends, but I do personally know those that are very book smart.
Yeah.
The highest in the class, and then like you touch base with them and you're like, what's going on?
Yeah.
Like what?
Well, I have, he's since passed, God rest his soul, but I had a great uncle, MIT grad,
Wow.
brilliant, one of the most brilliant people I've ever met in my life, socially inept, zero social skills, and it affected his life in a negative way.
Yeah.
You know, he obviously relied on his intelligence and his book smartness, and he had a job and he worked a job, and that was, nothing wrong with that again, but I look at, I've evolved into kind of a full circle, full relevance of a human, I guess, for lack of a better word, and a business person, meaning I work just as hard on my learned as I have on my networking. And I think you really need
People skills.
People skills, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, it is paramount. The old saying, your network is your network. Your net worth is your network.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's who you know oftentimes, but how you know them, how you engage with those individuals, and the value that you might bring to their lives, and how that's reciprocal. The reciprocal value, when I meet someone who I think can provide value to my life, I'm automatically thinking, how can I add value to your life?
Yeah.
And those are the relationships that are lasting, and those relationships that, because they're reciprocal, there's a mutual benefit there. And maybe not just in business. I mean, obviously in personals, some of those, how I form some of those relationships are now, my circle of friends and influence is pretty tight. I keep it that way on purpose. Yeah. But some of those individuals that I've met that way are some of my closest friends now.
Yeah. So like, aside from us obviously doing business together, aside from that, I enjoy hanging out with you because we're like-minded, right? Like being able to kind of throw stuff at each other, like, hey, what's going on with this? What's going on with that? Oh, what are your plans on that? And just like sharing information, being like-minded and having similar goals that are alignable, I think is very important. So if you are watching the show, try to pay attention to who is in your network, who you're spending time with, who are you sharing ideas with, because it's always good if they're like-minded. Doesn't mean if they're not, you got to, hey, get the hell out of here. It just means try to have like-minded people in your network, because like Matt said, your network is your net worth. That's very, very true. One other thing. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, sadly, most people in your life, and even more sad, most people that are closest to you are oftentimes your dream killers. Oftentimes the ones that are going to doubt you the most. And so to your point, it's about surrounding yourself with like-minded people, because it's okay that not everyone shares your vision, your dream, your passion, but it's not okay that you listen to them.
Yeah. So sometimes I get advice from dearly loved ones, and I'm like, I love you with all my heart, but what are you telling me right now? But I always take that with a grain of salt, and I just kind of even though they mean well. So like, I'll have a relative that might hear me venting about something related to business, and like they'll tell me, hey, handle it like this, and I'm like, I'll be in jail.
Yeah.
I can't. And I'm kind of exaggerating, but I have to kind of understand where the message is coming from. We've talked about similar things in prior episodes, like who's giving you advice, how to handle it, and kind of look at what they're doing,
sure.
And make sure it's in line. Okay, so we covered kind of that the network and the people skills and stuff like that. In business, when you chose your industry, what about, because I can answer this all day about my industry, what about solar drove you there? Aside from, it can be a lucrative industry, but aside from that, let me preface this to kind of give you the direction, and then you can kind of line it up.
Yeah.
So I chose the business growth industry using digital strategies. I chose that industry, the attributes about it, aside from years ago, I was a personal trainer. And I used to really love seeing people progress. I used to love seeing people either lean out, put on some muscle, get stronger, hit their goals. Like sometimes I would get guys that they're about to go in the Marines, and they're like, hey man, I weigh 120 pounds soaking wet. I need to put on some strength. And they were kind of paranoid. They were like, hey, I got a year and a half. What can you do? And we'd train. I would tell them what they should eat, what they shouldn't eat. And we would train our brains out for full year and a half. And right before they're about to go enlist and go in, they're like, thank you. And I used to get a thrill off of seeing the progress. So that was already built into me. So then when I got into my industry of helping small businesses grow, that was the same thing. Watching a business go from 500K, sometimes 300K to 4 million, and then 8 million, and then higher. That's like a thrill for me. Like I drool over it. It's exciting to me because I watch it and it's like all my projects, it excites me.
Yeah.
So the reason why, from a logistics standpoint of almost like the characteristics of an industry, the thing that I like about my industry is that in today's world, the things that I do for clients is a utility. They need it, like water, electricity, people's digital presence, and even the up and coming AI stuff, which we're adopting. It's so critical that they need it. If they are not using the strategies, tactics, tools, technologies that I provide my clients, they're irrelevant. They're no longer visible.
Sure.
And keeping that visibility is so critical. That was one of the things that I really liked about it was this is something that someone needs, and it's a reoccurring need.
Most definitely.
So what I like about your industry, and it's kind of similar, it's a utility.
It is.
So you chose a good industry that is like, people need it. People need to save money. People need power, right?
Most definitely.
Utility, there you go. It's right in line, because sometimes people get into lines of business where, and there's nothing wrong with it. It just means you need to bust your ass and keep selling.
Yeah.
When they sell one item, okay, hey, here you go.
Yep.
What is the life? Now you got to get into what's the life cycle of this item. Okay, yeah, it's a pen. Pens wear out, but the pen has to be replaced. It's consumable, which is good. But like, let's say someone's selling a vacuum cleaner.
Well, there's varying levels of it,
Yeah. So you got to rely. You can leverage and go, okay, I'm going to get the bag sales. Okay, but you got to sell those units. Keep selling those units. Where you get into a line of business that's more of a reoccurring need, a utility.
Right.
I think that's a recipe for success.
The opportunity you've allowed us to not even think about our social media presence is phenomenal in your industry, right? So that's one of the things I love about your industry, and obviously working with a company like yours. It makes everything easy. I don't have to think about that. That's important to me. In terms of my industry, I started out as a salesperson in this industry before I owned a business, and I found, well, first of all, I love renewable energy. I just think it's a tremendous value proposition to anyone in any industry, whether you're a business owner, homeowner, whatever happens to be. So first and foremost for me, I'm very passionate about the industry in general, right? I believe in the utility part of it, so many aspects of it, the legislative components of it. So for me to be successful and kind of going way back when I told you I have to be really inspired by something or someone to really have an interest in it. Otherwise my brain kind of goes off in different areas and I lose interest, right? But I'm such an advocate of this industry. But I think what really pushed me to be like, wow, like I can see myself doing this the rest of my life. I don't want to think about it. Like I burned all my other bridges, not in a negative way, just I went all in with this industry, with renewable energy. Wow. Because there's such a value that I'm providing to a homeowner and a business owner. From a business owner's perspective, I'm influencing their bottom line. When they don't have to spend money for something, they don't have to attach, again, any equipment, and they're just getting something that's reoccurring for them every single month. Maybe they don't think about me individually or think about my company, Renewables Worldwide, as a company, but they are thinking to some level about the value that I provided them, because very simply, every single month, without fail, they're paying the utility bill, their electric bill, whether in New Hampshire, Eversource, or Massachusetts National Grid, or Eversource, wherever it is across the country, they're saving money.
Yeah.
And once I set that up for them, it's reoccurring for as long as they're in business. To me, that is just powerful. And that's what excites me about the renewable space industry that I'm involved in, right? There's other aspects of it, of course. But when you could have that much influence on whether it be a homeowner or a business owner's bottom line, I can't think of many industries that have that much power.
It's rewarding.
It's so rewarding.
It's rewarding.
I mean, I'll give you, just not to get you up, but
no, yeah.
I mean, so from homeowners, the savings average if you're doing a lease or PPA, they call it, 30, 40, 50%, somewhere in that, which is still significant. When you get into, and that's rooftop, when you get into the community solar part of the equation, we work with large scale municipalities, hospitals, housing authorities that are spending 6 figures a month on their electric bills. So when you could save an entity that large 6 figures annually, I mean,
wow.
Come on, that's for something that I hate to use the word free, but it's free. There's no other way to, it doesn't cost you anything, right? You're aligning yourself with a solar farm through an agreement, and the agreement is only because they want you to stay on the farm to realize the savings, because that's part of our solar farm developers' return on investment as well. But it's a win-win. It's a mutual benefit. It's reciprocal. Going back to that word that I used earlier, it's just so from pizza shop owners that I can save, and liquor stores, the small retail I call it, anywhere from depending on the size, $500 to $5,000 a month, to the larger scale towns, municipalities. I mean, we just signed up City of Lawrence not long ago, saving them $85,000 a year, and that's only a small portion of their portfolio. They have a lot more that they spend, but again, they're not spending money as an organization. So that's
impressive. So the small business solution that you have, the business owner doesn't need to put up any money.
No.
Wow.
No. Now, on the commercial rooftop side, you can pay for the system as opposed to leasing it. And again, I'm talking rooftop. But then there's an additional added value proposition there of tax benefits, depreciation, things of that nature. So, and I would obviously go a deep dive with a business owner and show that value. And if it makes sense, it makes sense. Most times it does, Wow. So, yeah.
Awesome. So we're going to wrap up the show. Thank you for coming out.
Thank you.
It was awesome.
Yeah, it's great.
So be sure to like, subscribe. I know Jake normally does this. Be sure to like, subscribe, comment, and stay tuned till next time.